Hello everybody, hello internet. My name is Julian and you're going to be watching Youthline's TV show. Today's episode is going to be called Mestizo. I didn't write it down on the board, so forgive me. But we have a lovely guest of Maria.
Hi guys.
Yeah, and so let's get right to it. So Mestizo is like, well, it's not is, but Mestizo comes from like the 1800s, so it's a very old word, but it was specifically for people who were mixed. It was a Spanish word for mixed people, and it's kind of like not a good thing because the way that this word came out, they decided to create a list, a hierarchy system of just class based on the color of your skin. And so, as we have it, Español means pure Spaniards. Then within these Español, you have two subcategories, which Peninsular are people who were born in Spain, but also who moved to the Americas. Then Criollos are people who were born in Americas, but has Spanish descent ancestry. And then you have Castizos, which is mostly European or mostly Native American looks, but they have they're like distant relatives of it, of a family member. Then Mestizos is people who are like split between Native American and Spaniards. Indio is just pure Native American. Pardo, which is a mixture of Españols, a mixture of Spaniards, Native Americans, and Africans. The mulattoes are people who are a mixture of Spaniards and Africans. Then Zumba is a mixture of Native American and Africans, and then there's Negro, which is just pure African. And so, like, during this time period, you can never tell who's like accurately like one race or not, because there could be people who like fully look, who are fully from Spain, but they're dark as hell because of the sunlight, or they're out on adventure. So like so that's the things that sadly they were probably inaccurate most of the time when they just came up on the spot of figuring out what it is. But yeah, it's a pretty crazy system that they had to base on. Like, basically, short term is the lighter you are, the better chance you are of surviving in the place without being treated terribly. While you just go down, you get treated terribly and worse and worse. But yeah, what do you think, Maria?
Seems right to me. Personally, I think that there is a lot of it, and it has changed. Some of the terms have come over here and just changed a bit. Other than that, that's pretty much it.
Okay then. Well, in 1929, this philosopher during the Mexican Revolution decided to change the word mestizo to this philosophy idea called La Raza Cósmica, which is called the cosmic race. And the way that this guy was thinking was to have a mixture of old world and new world together. So old world was an idea of history where we consider Europe, Asia, and Africa as the old world. Only the Americas is considered the new world, where like they discovered, like Christopher Columbus. That's when they decided to call that as the new world. So this guy believed that if you mix all these races to combine, and you have a majority of them, then these people will be better than any humanization ever, and it will help create a better system for everybody to unite and be stronger together. And his reasons are that they can speak multiple languages, they can relate to their family's history and other people's history, and try and find a connection to the opposite of like, or not opposite, but like other races that haven't gone through the same similarities as other people have, but they will find a way to connect. And then he was saying that like their philosophies will be better than a lot of things, their way of feelings will be great, it will be better. So this idea of it was kind of like it's more of an optimistic thing, and he said that we can actually, this thing can happen soon if we tried to change the idea of, well, not the idea, but if we can take away social Darwinism and scientific racism, because scientific racism is basically it used to, well, it's not used to be, there are studies that people find and create and explain why Africans were slaves or why people of color were less than white people. And a good example would be in, I think it was Stanford, the museum, they showed images of like skulls that were like similar to humans, like white people's skull, and these white people's skull will consist of like lions, bears, elks, very majestic, strong, powerful creatures. And then for African skulls, they had them looking like monkeys and like things that were like very looking like prey instead of predators of the whole entire thing. And so these people will try and find reasons of why Africans deserve to be slaves and like treated this way, and people of color, to be honest. That's scientific racism. Social Darwinism is basically, summing it up, survival of the fittest. And this idea of the survival of the fittest is the reason why people will come back and like fight against each other no matter like what skin color you are, but also like as with humans, the people realize that humans are really smart, so they can make a band together because they know that they can trust each other. And so that's where this idea of these two, scientific racism and social Darwinism, created like a lot of like racist stereotypes and like a lot of things. And so he was saying, this guy, his name is Jose, this philosopher from the 1929, his name is Jose. But we got this. Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the hierarchy system, and it was just basically saying that the whiter you are, the better chance of you have being treated fairly than the rest of the other ones. So later on, there's this guy in 1929 during the Mexican Revolution. His name is Jose Vasconcelos, and he's a philosopher, and he's done a lot of things too during that time, but specifically he created this ideology that's the word mestizo, and he tried to change the idea of like in a negative way to be a more positive way. And mestizo, his way of saying this is that if you combine the old world and the new world together, then you can have this thing called the fifth race, and that's the name of it. He didn't really like, well, technically the name is La Raza Cosmica. So the old world consists of Europe, Africa, and Asia. The new world consists of just the Americas. So his way of thinking of the fifth race would be Africa, Europe, and Asia combined with the Americas, and that will make the world better. And his reasons is that if you can mix everybody, then they'll have a perfect chance to unite and understand people's history. They can speak multiple languages. They come from different perspectives, if not different philosophies, so it doesn't have to be one way or the other way. And he will say that these people will have a better emotional and spiritual way of living life. And so his reasons are affected by the scientific racism and the social Darwinism. Scientific racism is just a way of like scientists and people to allow racism or like allow like slavery or other things by saying that these people of color were less than white, because even by the bone structures they were, or even other things like that, they were determined to be less no matter what. And so a good example would be in Stanford, they would create a an exhibit showing the skulls of these big, powerful predator animals, and they will say that these animals look exactly kind of like white people's skulls. And then they'll show another exhibit of showing that these prey animals are exactly African people skulls or people of color skulls. So that's scientific racism. Social Darwinism, to shorten it up, is just survival of the fittest. And basically, the problem was that if we took those two away, then we wouldn't have these racial stereotypes. We wouldn't have these injustice of like race among other people. And so this idea is just it's an optimistic and hopeful future, but a lot of people didn't like what Jose said, because during his like philosophy book of like about the La Raza Cosmica, a lot of people were saying that this guy was still putting a lot of racist stereotypes in his like quotes in his book, so he was kind of being contradicting for that part. And then a lot of other people argue that like his world is wrong because it's a fairy tale. It's not going to be real. There's no way it can be real because of so many things going on. And so they kind of like took him away from that idea, and like he basically kind of, not that he fell off, but like that Raza Cosmica fell off the idea. But yeah, what do you think of so far about that whole entire thing, Maria?
Honestly, it just kind of reminds me of like going back in history, and like specifically like history class, like you get taught a lot of stuff that happens in the U.S., but you don't really get taught things outside of the U.S. unless you're like in ethnic studies class, right? And I remember, like, if I look back now, I really truly like remember being in one of those classes and just enjoying and learning about different cultures other than mine. And I do agree with it to a certain extent, because I feel like if you know more than one language, you're able to communicate with so many different people and just like socially interact if that's what you would like to do. And I think that'd be great, but it's also a question of like people allowing that to happen, or like people just teaching others, right? Like instead of some of the stuff that happens now, like somebody's like learning Spanish and they get bullied for like their accent or not pronouncing something right, teaching that person, oh, this is how you pronounce it, instead of like laughing at their faces and disencouraging that person to like learn what they need to. Yeah.
I don't know, I can see what you're saying. Yeah, I feel like ethnic studies classes were very helpful when I took them, and then I also like went outside of the country to study abroad for French, and it was a whole entire different world of like everything. Like I feel like the United States is very diverse, of course, but it's very crazy, while in the outside world, so far from like spending the summer in Paris and like other places in France, it was very calm and relaxing. That's probably because of like my life situation, but like I could see the kind of like hatred and like anger and like loudness here in the country, while if you go to like play outside, I feel like for me it was kind of calmness in a way, even like just seeing how many people there were. But yeah, so the third thing we're going to be talking about is about the mestizos, which is it's a wrong word to say nowadays. A lot of people don't like being called mestizos, so I'm going to say mixed people from now on, because the way they shift the word, and I agree with it. So mixed people are what a lot of people are going to become I would say the new wave of like diversity in a way, because recently in the 2020 census, it came out that the white population has dropped by 20%, which is a lot, and it's the first time ever in history to drop that low. and a lot of people are saying that if they continue this pathway at the same rate that it's dropping, then white people will become a minority, less than 50%. So because of this idea, a lot of people don't believe that this is true. A lot of white people are freaking out, of course. They feel like they're going to become a minority, and that because they become a minority, they will probably feel like less in power, or that they feel less than who they used to be. Either way, this is something that they need to figure out and deal when the time comes and slowly adapt to it, because I feel like it will happen no matter what. But the reasons why I can think of, the reasons why the white population drops so drastically are like a few things. First thing is that as the census keeps on updating itself, there are new race and ethnicity that are coming to the census. So a lot of people are being represented, probably, and they will put the actual thing that's accurate. And so that would probably make sense about like why the white population drastically changed of one point of view. The other reason is that a lot of white people probably do not want to say that they're white due to the amount of like trouble that their race has caused, or that they're still causing to this day. So they feel ashamed, they don't want to be part of that. Or the third reason is that a lot of white people are figuring out their roots, and they realize that they're more than just white people. So they're like probably, 1/4 this and 1/4 that, to maybe 2/8 of this and 6 of that, whatever fraction it is. So that's probably the three main reasons of why. But it's not a problem of having, being multiple race or not, as I am a mixed person, and it's not an issue of like figuring out your roots. One of the issues, though, that I think a lot of people will soon realize and see is that mixed people, we don't really have a place to belong. We're always in the middle, or we're always like pushed away by like our two ethnicities or two race. Like there could be a group of people not accepting you because you're part of this other group, and when you feel belong to this one group or the other group, they might be okay with it, but the other group won't be because you're that group. A good example would be, if you're mixed with a Salvadorian heritage and a white heritage, then, people in El Salvador, or even people around the world, will say, oh, but you're too white to be that. You look too white. You don't, fit in with us. So you're already pushed out already by that. And then a lot of white people will be like, you're too, dark for us. You're too curly hair for us. You don't fit in the perfect white of that. And so already that's just two groups just not accepting. That's multiple of just within other races and other things. And so this whole entire fitting in and identity problems, there's a lot of things that mixed people are having issues about. But there's so many beneficials of having mixed people. Like the guy said, Jose, he said that these people can have multiple languages, they can have from different philosophies, they can have so many things into it that could make the world united and better. And I don't agree that it should be the better race than all other races, because we don't want that idea again. So it's just a new wave coming through, and it's just time to slowly accept it, because in the future more people are going to be mixing, because a lot of people are living with other diverse people or other races in their schools, in their neighborhoods, in their work. So they get to bond, they get to figure out ways to hang out and deal with each other, and that's when you can make connections. And so they may fall in love, they may want to have kids, and so that's where mixed people are coming from. And it's a cool thing to see, and it's going to be happening in the future. Then, as I was just trying to say, these are the benefits of having mixed people, where, again, you can bring people together, you can bond over so many things, you can have open perspectives and better understanding of both sides instead of just one side. And then, Mestizo back then is not a good thing. In the 1929, they tried to make it a good thing, but it kind of didn't turn out that good. And then nowadays, we don't say the word mestizo to people who are mixed. We call them mixed. And so that today, everybody on the internet, you just watch Youthline's TV show. Make sure to follow us on Instagram, Youthline. You can email us at youthline@chalk.org. You can get our website at youthlinesf.org. You can share, if you guys can share, like, and subscribe, that would be fantastic. I just want to say thank you to Maria for being a great guest and having conversations for that. And